My big bad bottle.
Welcome
That's the
to
best.
episode 4 of Somewhere on the Spectrum.
The best intro yet.
My bad bottle, my big banana bottle. Welcome back, folks. We're trying a new location today.
Hopefully less
we will
technical
have less internet.
issues.
Wait, hold on. We've also been recording not in gallery view, which we should fix. Now we might be
Probably.
better. All right,
Yeah.
that should be good now. It might have been your face just giant that whole beginning.
That would be amazing.
I'm
I'm
okay with that.
hoping.
I hope so too. All right, man.
Today
How you doing today?
Founding some myths.
We're gonna do some myths today.
Yeah, and
There's
it's
a lot
gonna
of
be.
myths.
There's a lot of myths.
We're mythological beasts.
Autistic creatures.
Did we both just say mythological at the same time?
I think we did it. Soul brothers.
We're made of the same parts. That's gonna be our. We're gonna need to make a product just so we can use that as our jingle.
Exactly.
So yeah, we're gonna do some myths today, man. And I think, wait, I need to set a timer so we don't ramble longer than we're supposed to. I forgot to do that last time, so I'll do that, and then it's going. Let's dispel
we're on episode
some
4
myths.
now.
You'd think we would have it figured out,
but we do not.
We have no idea. Also, can I make an unrelated observation that has been driving me crazy for numerous episodes now, and I'm gonna need you to fix it.
What is it?
Right behind your head, on the wall behind you. There is a crooked painting that has literally been driving me nuts for many episodes. Oh, thank you. That's so much better. That's 1,000% better.
Now then, shall we crack on, sir?
We should crack on, man. I have a little article here from Medical News Today, and I'm just going to use their myths, and then we will use our own completely unsubstantiated research to dispel these myths. Okay, myth number 1. All people with ASD have a special gift.
Oh, that's a toughie to straight off the bat.
That is a tough myth.
Because that's all right. So it depends what we're classing as a special gift.
Okay, so let me start with this. Do you feel that you have something that resembles a special gift?
Well, here's my thing. I think there is, it is humans in general. I think everybody has a certain element of them that they're better at. And I don't think you should be ashamed to say that. For me, I write poetry that I'm good at.
Okay.
But I can't build a shed. You know?
That's true.
Don't know, it's totally unrelated things, but there's so much I'm bad at.
Yeah.
But I think every human being has a special.
So I'm inclined to believe that a lot of that this myth comes almost more from pop culture than it does from anything else. And I think the special gift that this myth might be referring to is more like savantism. People like Rain Man, where if you spill a box of matches, you know exactly how many matches are on the floor or something like that. Or you can do complex equations instantly in your brain. Because here is a fact. A large number of genius thinkers from history, it has come around that it is believed that they most likely would have been diagnosed with ASD had it have been a prevalent thing at the time. So I think that myth centers from the idea that many of the people that we call genius thinkers today probably had ASD and probably dealt with this on a daily basis. But back then, it was just seen as a mental condition rather than it wasn't classified. And so I think maybe that's what it's referring to as it may be savantism. And in reality, that only about 1 out of every 200 people who have ASD have some form of savantism. Yeah. So that I think that the idea that everybody does, though, if you have any form of autism, you're like a weird genius that can do math with your mind.
That I can discover gravity.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, exactly. Without the apple falling from the tree.
Exactly. I could just do it. I just walk out at scientific discovery every day.
So beyond poetry, do you feel like there are any other abilities that you have that might be extraordinary from somebody else.
Do you know what's weird? It's like I wrote about it, but like autism as a superpower,
Yeah.
right? Like I haven't finished that poem still. It's been months, but I will one day. And like one of the things that I put in there for like humorous effect was like that I feel like I got a superpower of hearing, but I've got like an extra meter, but not much more. But I've got like that extra. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah, no, I know.
I can hear better,
Sure.
but it's not to the point of like Superman where if you're in a locked vault, you know,
You know,
1,000 miles
yeah,
away,
you know if you sneezed.
and you're whispering, I know
Yeah.
exactly what.
That's
Oh,
interesting because I feel the same way sensory wise. I feel like as far as savantism, I do not feel I have, but I do feel like my
no,
brain does learn in a different way that almost sometimes feels like cheating. Like what we discussed on that childhood
on the
episode was my brain
yes,
does pick up information in a way that a neurotypical person's brain might not. But the other one, you hit the nail on the head with the superpower, because I have two things that I honestly have always felt like they were superpowers. And one of them is my senses. For whatever reason, my sense of hearing, smell, and taste are so sensitive and supercharged that I'm able to detect things that nobody I know can detect. I mean, and not only that, I can, like, especially with scent, I can mentally dissect it into components the moment I smell it and know, like, that's this, and inside of that is this, and inside of that is that. And I can know, and which is great for me because I have so many food allergies. It's saved my life a
yeah.
million
So
times.
yeah, to know if it's got garlic in it or
Yeah, or
which is
onion, or yeah,
fantastic.
it
It's quite
is.
interesting to say that because like I have this argument with Sav like so much about like being observant. And what's weird is like I can be the least observant person ever,
Yeah.
and I can miss the most obvious of things. But when it comes to the tiniest details, I notice things that like nobody else does.
Exactly.
And then Sav's like, "You're not an observant person." I'm like, I just wasn't paying attention at that point. But
It
like the
has to,
small
you
things, I
have to
know.
choose it. Yeah.
But it's always the small things.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. In fact, that was what I was going to say. My second superpower is have you ever seen the TV show Psych?
Yes.
Okay. So everybody thought he was psychic because he was so keenly intuitive and observational about the things that he was noticing. I am
Yes.
the same exact way. Like watching that show, I relate so much because I honestly sometimes I feel like it borders on a psychic intuition. And I think that all it really is my brain is processing more information than it even knows it's processing. And so if we're watching a television show or even talking to certain people, I feel like my brain is absorbing so much weird information that it kind of knows what the next thing is going to be, even if I don't consciously know that I know.
You talked to me about this, right, months ago.
Yes.
And you talked about the way that we look at a situation and like how we look from like outside in,
Yes.
and like most like when people focus on something in the center, but I always look at the background first
So do I all the time.
and then I go straight to then I go to the middle.
Yes.
But it's
So,
noticing
which is
that.
why I'm noticing your picture behind you more than your face.
Exactly.
I mean, that
But
even
it's
happened last night for us. We were watching a show on TV and I said, "Whoa, rewind it." And they rewound it. And I said, "Well, did that sign in the background say underpants, etc.?" And everyone looked at me and said, "What are you talking about?" And they rewound it and they went all the way back. And sure enough, way in the back, there was a billboard in very small letters that said underpants, etc. And it was maybe on the screen for a half of a second. It just flashed by.
I did it with my mom was watching this really terrible Hallmark movie the other day, and they were like, the lady picked up her phone and was like, "Happy Valentine's Day," and then like they cut to the man picks up his phone and locks it, and I was like, "Well, wait there, it's December," and I thought it was like part of the plot where they were doing like this cute thing. I was like, "Why is it December?" It was like it's not. Like rewind it, and like there on the
All
screen,
the
it's like
time. Yes.
December.
Yes. I do that in and it ruins movies and shows.
It does so
I do that
bad.
all. Wait, so I think we're kind of not dispelling the myth because maybe we Maybe people with ASD do have superpowers.
Well, maybe. So
So
like we
sorry
started
about it.
with, but I think maybe there's like, I'd like to hear off people
I would
who
too.
aren't on the spectrum to see if they do this too.
I would too, actually. That's a good point.
Like without practice, because I know if you practice it, you can do it. But
Yeah.
like, do you naturally pick this stuff up? Like that
That's
would
a
be
good, yeah.
interesting.
So if you're watching, please do chime in because we're curious. Ring in. All right,
Number
let's move on.
2.
Okay. Myth number 2. The origins of ASD. Some people, so this one is all around the idea of exactly what ASD is. And I think the
Okay.
idea is most people believe that ASD is a behavioral or emotional or a mental health disorder
Okay.
rather than a disability or a neurobiological disorder. So I think
Okay.
a lot of people think that if you have ASD, it's just like an emotional mental health thing. And it's not biological, and it's not something that is inherently built into you. It's just, you're just having problems, or you're having depression or something like that. And I
Yeah.
think that's a big one, because I think you and I both, if we were to have a video of our entire childhood, we would have seen it immediately that we had these and they haven't gone away.
No. But I also like to stray away from the term disability.
Me too.
Like, I would never class myself as disabled.
No, unless it got me a good
That
parking
is
spot.
exactly.
Then give me the placard, because
Yep,
I would
I
love it.
am. That's my term. But because I think a lot of people class it into that, like
Yeah.
the disability of autism, whereas to me, it's more, yeah, it has its negatives.
Mm-hmm.
But it has its upsides in
It
terms of
does.
like noticing the little things. I know it's a pain in the ass, but it's like there's got to be a time in life when that's useful.
Well, I don't think either you or I would have careers in poetry if it wasn't for that. I think
Well, no,
our ability to notice those small details, as photographers as well, I think without those,
yeah.
we wouldn't be able to do our jobs as especially as well as you do, and hopefully I do. But
Well, you do. You know you do.
well,
You
no,
know you do.
I
Do
don't know. I think when I finish writing something, I feel like 99% of the time I just think it's probably shit, and I hope that it's not. But
you
that
tell me
is,
that all the time? You send it to me and you go, "Oh, I wrote this shit thing." I'm like, "Oh God."
I never know. So that's a good one, because I think you're right. I've always seen it more as a superpower than a
Yeah.
disability, and I stand by that, because despite the hurdles, I'm constantly impressed what ASD allows me to see. I think it is the source of all my creativity in my life. I think it is the genesis of all of it, and without it, I don't know what I would be. And I think that actually rolls over into another myth, and this is one that will be interesting, is that there is a cure for autism.
Yeah, well,
And
that one's very interesting.
because there is no cure for autism, there
No.
are ways to deal with it and cope with it, which we covered in our previous episode.
Yeah,
But
but an
there,
actual cure, no.
no, there isn't. And so I think, like I said, because I see it as the source of all my creativity, I'm terrified of anything that threatens to take that away. And that's where I wanted to talk with you about medication, and about,
Oh,
because a lot of people do try to treat autism, and there are ways with people who have severe cases, there are ways to make their lives more enjoyable with medication. But I wanted to know your thoughts on medication.
I tried one for both the autism and the ADHD.
Okay.
And if people have been watching this, they'll notice I don't sit still. Like
You don't.
ever. Like no. Exactly. I'm like fluidly emotional
You
ways. I'm
are. I
just
love it. I love
but
it.
like I remember taking ADHD medication. I was just like, and it just made me still, but not even like externally only. It was
Yeah.
internally too.
Do you remember, or are
And
you comfortable sharing what the medication was?
it began with an A, and it was a long word,
Okay.
and I will look it up.
Yeah.
But
You
yeah,
don't
but I
have to.
took
I just
that, and no, but I remember that, and it was just like I couldn't even spell it back then. So,
Yeah.
but it was like a long word beginning with A, and it just felt like literally like it worked to a
Hmm.
degree,
But not
right?
in a good way.
Not in a good way. And it was the same with like whatever I took for the autism. I can't even remember what that was. It was so long ago. This was like 6 years
Yeah.
ago, and I only took it for a month because I was like, then they were like, "Oh, it'll get better," but I'm like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even like it was literally like writer's block times 100,
Yeah.
where I didn't even want to write. I was just like, oh, so much effort, and it was like using my brain was hard.
Yeah. I
Like
have no
it's
interest.
strange.
Yeah,
It's
my only experience with medication, um, as we've talked about, I have a million food allergies, and it took a really long time to figure out what those were for me. And so I would say 95% of my childhood, I was sick all the time. I was sick to my stomach like 95% of my childhood. And because of that, it did create for a long time a very real sense of anxiety, because every time I left the house, I felt sick. And so it made me not really want to leave the house very much, because I was like, well, yeah, but what if I feel sick when I leave the house? Where am I, like, is there a bathroom at this place we're going? Am I going to feel like I need to run away? What's going to happen? And so I remember, uh, as they should have, my parents tried to get me help for that. And the doctor that we first saw, rather than approaching it from the symptom and then trying to figure out what's happening, he just immediately assumed that it was anxiety disorder. And so he said,
wow.
well, the reason your stomach is sick is because you're anxious, and so if you fix the anxiety, then you won't have any stomach problems anymore. And I kept saying, well, no, it's I have a stomach ache, and having the stomach ache is making me anxious. It's the other way around. And
Yeah, you've done
so
it backwards.
yeah, and so he prescribed, I remember it was lorazepam, and
Okay.
he gave it to me, and I remember I took it for a week, and that week I felt like my body was a hollow shell, and I was just a passenger inside of it. And it was like I was looking through my eyes, like as this person who was riding around in this ship that he wasn't steering. And
Yeah.
I remember I got angry very easily. Like simple things would make me just feel irate, and I would get unrealistically angry about the dumbest things. And I would yell at my mom when I was in high school. And it was for only a week. And I remember finally I hit this point at the end of the week where I remember walking into the bathroom, taking the pills. And I think at the time, like, they were pretty expensive for us. And so I just poured them all down the toilet. And I said, never again in my life will I do this, because like you said, I couldn't think, I couldn't write,
Yeah.
I couldn't function, and I couldn't control the noise in my brain. It didn't make the noise go away. It just made me feel like I was watching it and I was helpless to do anything about it.
And I know that there's like this whole thing about you got to give it time.
Yeah.
Like, and there's people that say like you got to take it for like 2 weeks, and then you got to take it for this long. And but to me, it's like if it's doing this to me now,
Yeah.
like the fear that I had was like, am I just adjusting to this? Am I just
Yeah.
controlling it? Like you used the ship. Am I just going to be driving a ship I don't want to drive? Like
Exactly.
I makes me very anxious.
Yeah. And I think it's important to say that for some people, medication might be the savior that is keeping them okay. And in that case,
Exactly.
absolutely. But I think that is the biggest myth, is that people still believe that you can cure this. If you take the right amount of medicine at the right time, it'll go away. And that is not the case at all.
There literally are a million ways to handle it,
Yep.
and it's just finding that one that works for you.
Exactly. So there is no wrong way to, I mean, if it gets you through a day and it's harming nobody, get through the day.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
all right. The next myth, and I feel like this one we're going to have a lot to say about. Myth number 3: people with ASD do not feel love, emotions, or have feelings.
Okay, how long we got left?
I know we have about 17 minutes and 45 seconds to kick the
This could be the
living
last
crap out of that one.
question.
I think
Do you
that,
know
well,
what I would
for the article, that
say?
is the last myth for right now. So
Oh, that's perfect then. That's a
yeah,
perfect end.
but I'm
But
sure
I
we'll
think
pop
it's
up with more.
Yeah, I think it's the opposite,
I do
but I
too.
think it's like maybe we show it differently at some stages,
Yep.
but it's definitely not true.
No.
Like, like it's because it's so hard to explain how much love that we give out.
Yeah.
Like that's what your whole thing is. It's like the whole poetry thing is about love, and you know,
Yeah.
but for that to even exist is insulting in a way.
Oh, absolutely. I think you hit
Yeah,
the nail on the head. I think honestly, I think it could not be more opposite to that. And
no,
I would even risk to say that I feel like people with ASD have more to give than even
yeah,
like a neurotypical person. But like you said, you said it perfectly. It just comes out in different ways and it manifests itself in different ways. And I think the key is at different times. I think that's the
yeah,
thing. Because I think on a normal timeline for like neurotypical people, emotion and the expression of that emotion follows a pattern. And I think that pattern makes people who are not like us feel safe, and it makes them feel loved and heard and respected. And because it follows that pattern. But for people like us, ours doesn't come on that timeline. And if, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on this, but even for me, I know I love somebody the
yeah,
moment that I know. And like sometimes that's after one day. And because of that, I have no problem explaining that and telling that. I have no problem like I told Sarah that I loved her inappropriately early because I knew. And I didn't care if it was weird, and I didn't even have a moment of pause in my brain where it was this is weird to say this now. It was just
yeah,
I know this now, and it might not be on your timeline or a normal timeline, but I know it, and I'm not willing to waste any more time not saying it out loud. And I think
yeah.
that is where that myth comes from: is if we are early or if we are late on the expression of those emotions, which we often are, that we're not feeling them, and it's not that at all.
But with timeline as well, I think that might be part of the myth because it might scare people off to not to hiding it away so much that they make themselves believe that they don't sort of feel it
Yep.
because they're like, okay, this is the wrong time, so I'm not going to say it now. Okay, okay, just that's not now. And then they get to a
Yeah.
point where it's like so hidden inside you, which is fascinating.
That they
But I
doubt
think
it.
that
They
this,
begin to doubt.
yeah, but the severity is also important to note because, like, obviously, it's such a big spectrum.
It is.
But I think there is something that runs all the way through it of how we love, and it is the
Mm-hmm.
wrong time, and it might be the wrong words or the wrong tone.
Yeah.
Because so many times I say something to Sav that I genuinely mean lovingly, but like I couldn't give you an example, but it comes out and she's like annoyed.
Oh,
I'm like, no, I
absolutely.
didn't. I didn't mean it like that. Yeah, I just wanted to be like, hey. But I
Yeah.
think it's the other elements of autism that might make it seem like we're not meaning what we mean.
Yeah.
Like tone is a nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
I say things all the time to Sav and other people that sound so bad, and I'm like, I meant that sarcastically, or I meant that
Exactly.
in a nice way, but I sounded like a right asshole. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Or the one that I deal with a lot is it's tone, but it's also part of mine is I have a divorce between if I'm saying a true thing because it's a true thing. I don't understand sometimes, and I get in trouble with Sarah with this all the time. I'm not saying it to be mean. I'm saying it because it's a true thing. And I don't make the connection that she makes so easily that, well, yes, just because it's a true thing doesn't mean it's okay to say. And I'm like, well, I know, but I wasn't being mean. I was just saying the truth. Like, this is the truth of what I'm doing right, or what I'm looking at right now. I'm not being mean about it. I'm just telling you the truth.
This
And I think
that's
that's a
I've never
huge one.
related to anything more in my life. I do that to everybody, and
Me
it's just like
too.
it's just the truth. I
It is.
always
I'm
say to
not.
Sal,
I'm
like,
not doing
what's
it.
I the saying I always say is I'm just calling this duck a duck. Like
Yes.
that's what I always say to Sam, and I'm like, just call the duck a duck. That's all it
Yep.
is. Like,
Or I say the same thing, but I say if it walks like a duck and quacks like it, or quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. And it's funny because I think that it's hard for us because it can make us seem like we lack empathy on things like that. But the hard part for me is when I'm saying a true thing, I literally, if I could take a picture of what it looks like in my brain and show the person I'm saying it to, there is no judgment or malice or evil or
no,
anything. And when I say that, it's literally, I'm completely removed from that. I'm just telling you a true thing. And
yeah.
it doesn't mean that I'm unemotional. It just means that when that thing leaves my lips, all it is the truth. That's
But I
it.
think
And
it's also the truth in the sense of opinion. Like it's genuinely what I feel, and it's like
yes,
it's my opinion. It's just true. It's just my true opinion.
yeah, I'm not
But
lying to you.
I'm skipping the whole part that says "in my opinion" or "here's what I think." I'm sorry if it offends you. We're
Yes.
just skipping over that. I think literally in the Chasers group, I put up a post like yesterday where I was just like, "This song is shit," and it was just like just straight to the point. No, like, it was
Yeah.
fantastic.
Well, I feel like if more people behave that way, we would get ourselves into a lot less awkward situations that are impossible to get out of.
Yeah,
I
like
wish people would be more straightforward.
you have no trouble being straightforward
No, I
at
don't.
all, which is
But
great.
again, it's never because I'll say this too. So going back to that myth about that people
Yeah,
with ASD lack empathy or don't have emotions. Honestly, and I can say this, and those of you who know me watching this can attest, mine is the opposite of that. I am empathetic to a point where I don't know, I've heard a lot about empaths, who actually physically experience the physical sufferings of other people. I am
yeah,
so empathetic that mine is the other way, to the point where I don't ever think about myself to a fault, even when I need to.
yeah,
And it's because all of that energy, and I think what you were saying about how we see the world from out to in,
yeah.
I agree with that. That even extends into my empathetic response to people. I
I get that.
Everything around is focused outward for me, and then it comes in. I'm the last step of that. And so all of my empathy, rather than having none, I have too much of it, and it's a problem. Like
And it's a problem.
it straight up is a problem.
I think I relate to that too.
Yeah,
Maybe not to the same degree,
sure.
because honestly, it's a lot. Like when you commit to like a problem, you're just there, and you're
Yeah,
gonna solve that. And do you find like, yeah, because I think it's obsessions as well, obviously with the autism. When
yeah,
but my autism stretched to like other people, where I'm like, okay, we need to fix this. Like
yes,
you're now my obsession, right?
yes.
Like
I can't back out of this. And they're
we're
like,
here.
how often does Sav have to say to you, that's not your problem to fix? Like, let them figure
So,
it out. And I'm like, I know, but the answer is right here. If they just do this, that's not your problem to fix.
so that is why yeah. But I think it comes back to like friendships too, because
It
that's
does.
another myth that wasn't on that list. Was that people with autism don't have friends or like have
Clearly,
like yeah, well, clearly, but like that. I think that is a myth, or they have smaller circles, or
it
like,
is.
and I think it depends again on severity and
Yep.
person. But I know some people who have autism who have tons of friends and like
Mm-hmm.
are parts of all these social groups. But like we discussed in the child episode, I always go to two people in person,
Yeah.
and you've always had that one.
Yeah. I'm always one at a time.
Yeah,
Like, I have a
because
lot of trouble spreading that out, but you know what I mean?
just one at a time.
One at a
The
time.
rest have to wait. Grab a
Yep.
number.
Yeah, yeah, I only have time for you at my deli counter right now. Pull the tab, and when my meat's ready, you can have
What a weird sentence.
it.
Is that what you like in the bedroom? Grab a number, Sarah.
Grab a number, Sarah, when the sausage is ready. No, but I think you're right. I think that is an enduring myth. And I think, honestly, I would say all of these myths come in one bubble, and I would say that they can be summed up in one thing. I don't know if it's the same over there, but when people, I feel like it's a universal thing here. When people hear the word autism, I think people think of it as far down the spectrum as you can get. I think people think of a child that is sitting alone in a room, rocking back and forth, staring at the wall. And I think that's what people still like. It still hasn't gone away yet. That's what people think and see when they hear autism. And luckily, there are shows on TV now like Atypical with, starring characters who are representing autism in a way that shows it is a very, very broad spectrum.
It
and
is.
I mean, you and I think that's kind of why you and I wanted to do this. You and I are on different spectrums that, we're in different spots on that spectrum than each other.
I think we're just like just fingertips away from each other. Like,
and maybe we're like the upside down of each other.
Oh, that would be cool.
Like the Stranger Thing. Like maybe you're here and I'm here.
I like that. Let's do that.
Maybe. Hey,
I'm running with that.
That should be our like a design for a T-shirt. You and me as upside down timelines.
You could get the wave from the cover and then like put you at the top, near the bottom of it.
Yeah.
We're gonna make this happen.
We all gonna, and we'll look like conjoined twins because our heads will be connected on the wave line, and then our legs will be up and down.
I like that.
I love it.
I think again we are on the verge of running over.
Are we? Let me look.
Even though we are like,
we have about 5 minutes left.
So yeah, we got to read some stuff.
So we got to read some poetry, but yeah, I think the other thing that you and I would be keen on would be hearing. I want to hear other people's maybe preconceived notions about autism. I want to hear other people's myths. I want to hear what other people, when they think of autism or ASD, I want to hear what they think. And maybe we can, we need to do an episode that all of the feedback that we're requesting from people, we address on like a Q&A.
We can even do them in separate episodes where if we get enough feedback. But it would be like, and don't worry, I can't stress it enough. Don't worry about asking the wrong question.
We are unoffendable.
Exactly.
You cannot hurt our feelings. Away.
No. So just
and it's not because we don't have them.
We don't have the feelings.
We have feelings, and you just can't hurt them because we are open books.
Our feelings are just like erratic. They're just running around, so you can't even catch them.
Yeah. We're like tiny bunnies of emotion that just bounce all around. Or like, actually, we're more like greased pigs of emotion.
I don't know if I like that one.
I like that one because the visual of in Montana, they have a greased pig competition where they like try to catch a greased pig, and if you can catch it, you win.
Oh my gosh!
Like Bud Light or something, and it is hysterical.
What a prize!
Yeah, well, welcome to Montana. I could do a whole episode of just Montana myths. Do you chase greased pigs for cheap beer? Yes, they do. True story. All right, man. Well, I think we got some myths wrapped up. Like I said, I would love to hear some more from other people, but for now, that was a great start. And
these aren't like the only episodes we'll do on myths. Like if we find some more, and there's always ways that we can do more.
There is more ways we can help more.
It's going to be endless.
It is going to be endless.
We're going to be here as like grandpas, just like, it's about.
We're going to be like, welcome to Somewhere on the Spectrum with Ash James and Tyler Gregson.
You have to wake me up or something.
I know. We'll have a little alarm bell that is like, Ash, you're snoring again. All right. Why don't you kick us off with a poem?
A poem.
Do you have the one that we discussed last week about
the bar fight, man?
Yeah, the great line about the bar fight. I want to hear that one.
All right, it's called Ode to Tony. Let's find it. This one's really quite long.
All right, I'll settle
it's not too bad.
All right,
there's like 4 poems. Okay, let's just do it. Tony introduced himself to me the only way Tony knew how. by wrapping a pool cue around my skull and then justifying it using the phrase, well, you know how it is. Tony doesn't like losing. Tony is constantly on edge. Scratch that. Tony is the type of guy who's like the cartoon who's just plunged over the cliff, miraculously suspended in midair, defying all scientific beliefs. Tony is the kind of guy who grows a third arm in a bar fight. Tony speaks 2 languages, English, barely. Fisticuffs in a dark alleyway fluently. Tony taught me how to land a punch. Tony piloted me through the darkest parts of my life. He was the only one brave enough to rip the drink from my hands and tell me I've had too much. He was the only man who had enough strength to drag me back home after 12 pints of self-pity. Sure, Tony has a criminal record and his living room is practically on fire, but that doesn't give you the right to be the ones who give him his labels. Tony is a tattered cover in 16 chapters of broken glass. But if you stick with it long enough, you'll see Tony is worth a place on the bookshelf. Tony is the old paint. Tony is the rubble and the wrecking ball. Tony is the chaos and the calm. And anybody would be lucky to have a friend like Tony.
I love that, man.
Little poem.
So where does Tony live?
He lives in a little town about 20 minutes away in Newport.
Has Tony read that poem?
No, it's not his real name.
Oh, has the person who that's about recognized themselves in that poem?
No, because I haven't actually spoken to him in like 3 years.
Interesting.
Because I used to live in Newport, and that's how I sort of spoke to him.
Okay.
He's the sort of man who doesn't use a phone.
Yeah.
You know, unless it's a phone box.
So I have an idea. We need to write one of those poems for each other.
Okay. We'll get on that.
All right. So, okay, I was going to read one. Mother's Day was this previous Sunday, and I was going to read one about mothers, but yours made me want to read one about, it's just recently, about my friend, Sven. His real name was Eorg, but he didn't like that people called him Eorg. So when he was an exchange student when I was in high school from Sweden, and he became one of the best friends I've ever had in my entire life. And sadly, he passed away about 2 years ago, suddenly in a restaurant. And I still don't know exactly what happened. I'm thinking either heart attack or aneurysm, but he passed away and he was my age. And this poem came out of me the other day, and it just reminded me, mine's very short, and it's sad, but I was thinking of him the other day out of the blue. And it's interesting. This is again about dispelling those myths about people with ASD not having close relationships with people, because he literally was one of my best friends that I will ever have in my life. And
and it's one of the biggest mysteries you ever told me, man. Really is. Like,
it is. So this poem came out. So I'm going to read this one instead, just because yours inspired me. All right. Thought of you today. Whatever is 20 minutes beyond frequent. That was how much. It was that song, that goddamn song that has followed me since adolescence. Been the soundtrack to more memories than I can remember. You in the passenger seat, early enough for breath still visible inside the car. Everything outside was white. I thought of goodbye, the first, not the last. The cataclysm of farewell when life changed and we knew it stay changed. Wherever you are, I wish you well.
Damn good, man.
That's it, dude.
We need to bring these back. We have to bring these. But yeah. That's like, I think that is the perfect poem for this episode. Just to say, like,
it's a myth dispeller.
It is, really.
I think so is yours, actually. I think, honestly, I think of all the myths we read today, I think the final one we read about not having love or relationships or friendships, I think that is probably that, with, as well as the one about the child rocking back and forth. And I think that's the biggest myth, is that people with ASD can't have close friendships and close relationships because they don't have that capacity. And the fact that you and I two adult men just read two poems about two other adult men. That's even hard for, I think, neurotypical people, is to express emotion about, I think, especially for men. I think adult men writing a poem about another adult man. I mean, that is, I think people with ASD might be some of the only people that do and are capable of doing that.
I don't limit the poetry at all. That's the beauty of it. It's like, so whatever comes out, if I want to write about whoever, you know, if I want to write about how I cried to Tangled yesterday for the 17th time, I'm going to do that. Like,
it's the lanterns.
It's not. Man, I don't talk about the lanterns. I'll break up right now.
It gets me every time. It's on her birthday.
I know. So expect a Tangled poem coming out in the next few weeks.
Well, perfect, man. Thank you for dispelling myths with me, my friend.
And we have to do more, because dispelling the myths was very fun.
It was fun. You and I are the perfect people to dispel away.
We're the dispellers.
We're the official myth dispellers. We need, like, instead of myth busters, we're the myth dispellers, which is not quite as catchy.
Yeah, you got to call myth dispel. It doesn't go at all.
It doesn't work. All right, brother. Well, we'll be back here next week, and I believe we will be back with some special guests that are a hell of a lot more attractive than we are.
I cannot stress this enough. Next week, I am petrified. I cannot possibly explain this feeling.
Neither can I. I'm terrified. We're just going to be sitting back and letting them go, and we're I think what we should do is I should interview Sav, and then you should interview Sarah, and let them talk, and we'll just steer that runaway train, and let them crash it where it's gonna crash.
I'm just gonna be timber on the edge of a cliff, ready to jump.
Me too.
Right.
All right, buddy. Well, so hey, if you're watching this in one of these corners, it's going to be,
it's somewhere. We can never get it right.
I think it's above your hand that's holding the pen.
This one.
Maybe to the left. There, somewhere around there will be our previous episode. Feel free to watch it. And then somewhere over here-ish, maybe, or down here, maybe, will be the subscribe button. We're still not good enough to make, like, fancy end screens like some people are. So for now, it's just click a button.
We're going to get you an intro. We're going to get you an outro. Just give us some time.
And if anyone out there is good at doing that, if you want to trade custom poetry or something for some work on that, we would love intro and outro help. So if you're out there and you're good at videos, because we are quite obviously not.
I've got these awesome specs.
He'll throw those in, maybe.
For free.
For free, if you decide to help us. So anyway, give us a follow and a subscribe and a comment
and
or whatever.
All that stuff.
Do that
Thank
bullshit.
You so much.
And we love you.
I dropped my pen.
He dropped his pen that he's chewing on. We'll see you next week with some special guests.
We'll see you later.
Bye.